Tiffani Stark, for those of you that do not know me. I'm one of the public health program managers here at NCUIH. And also joining us today is my colleague, Myca Hunthrop. She's one of the public health project coordinators here at NCUIH, and we will be your hosts today. We would like to thank you for volunteering your time to participate in today's discussion. We at NCUIH appreciate your willingness to share your personal experiences with vaccines for COVID-19 and beyond. And we do understand that this can be a sensitive topic, specifically during a pandemic such as this. But we do want to reassure you this is a safe place, and feel free to share as much as you feel comfortable sharing. There are no right or wrong answers, and we know everyone's in a different place with capacity and vaccine progress. So this is a chance to learn from one another. Next slide, please. And again, we are very pleased that you could join us today. Your answers are very important and allow us to further understand the needs around adult vaccinations, specifically around COVID-19 and the flu, and how NCUIH can help assist with any barriers or roadblocks as well. And if you do have any IT difficulty during today's call, please chat directly to comms and events, and Lamar can further assist you. And finally, if you could, please enter in your name, UIO, or external organization, and any tribal affiliations into the chat box. That way we can get to know each other and also count your attendance. And we also would just like to review a quick housekeeping items. So if you have video capability, please enable your camera. This helps to create a more interactive environment. Also, please note that your microphones are muted, but you will have an opportunity to ask questions during the open discussion. And you can also raise your hand at the bottom if you'd like to be called on, or just unmute if the silence and pop in. And also our chat box will be monitored as well. So please feel free to drop any questions or comments throughout the presentation, and we'll address them at the designated time. And also, before we begin, please note the session will be recorded for educational and quality improvement purposes. Next slide. And we also invite you to share your feedback with us after the community of learning through the post-evaluation survey. So we have both the link and the QR code here. Your comments are very appreciated and also help us improve our technical assistance. And a gift of our gratitude will be shared to those who complete our survey. And we would also like to provide an acknowledgement. So this content was funded in part by a cooperative agreement with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is an agency within the Department of Health and Human Services. The contents of this resource do not necessarily represent the policy of CDC or HHS and should not be considered an endorsement by the federal government. And to begin, we'd like to provide a brief background on NCUIH. Our organization is a national nonprofit devoted to the support and development of quality, accessible, and culturally competent healthcare and public health services for American Indian and Alaska Natives living in urban areas. We represent the 41 Title V UIOs under IHS and the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act. We strive to improve the health of over 70% of American Indian and Alaska Native population that lives in urban areas, supported by quality, accessible healthcare centers. And now to move into our agenda. So we do have two speakers today. We have Bakersfield American Indian Health Program, Johnny Delgado, and also Native Health, we have Susan Levy. And then we do have an open discussion portion following our presentation. And then we will wrap up with some upcoming events and funding opportunities. And as mentioned, we do have Myca Hunthrop on the call today, as well as Bakersfield with Johnny Delgado and Native Health with Susan Levy. And now we would like to welcome a quick little activity to get all of our creative juices flowing and have a little bit of fun. So if you could, we will pull up the Kahoot activity and it will have some prompts for you to join through a QR code or also with the link.
All right, everyone. So you'll see at the top, that is the game pin. So you can either go to www.kahoot.it and enter that pin number, or you can use your phone and scan that QR code and enter in. And we'll give everyone a few minutes to sign in, just input in. You can either use your real name or a nickname, whatever works for you. We see some people joining us, so thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on our little activity, but feel free to you can join in at any time with that PIN number 5322161. So this is just a fun little activity icebreaker poll that we wanted to do about some community activities that we all engage in on our own time. So we'll go with the first question. What is your favorite community activity? Festival, a holiday event, healthcare events, or other? And if you choose other, we'll ask you to type it in the chat. So most people picked festival. We had two others. So would our two others put in the chat or come off mute? What events do you like to attend? Cultural events, those are good ones. Thank you, Johnny. Fun runs, yes. I wonder if you could call those, I guess they're not healthcare events because they're for fun. So I like that. Yeah, those are great. We can go on to the next question. I definitely prefer Harvest Fest myself. So how many community events have you attended this year? So most people have attended about 3 to 4. We have a few people going more than 5. That is awesome. And then some of us haven't been able to get out there, and that's okay. There's still plenty of time to attend our local events. Okay, we move on to the next one. This is the last question. So where do you like to gather with your community? At a park, a zoo, or aquarium, a spiritual space, or other? Most people pick parks or spiritual spaces. No one wants to go to the zoo or the aquarium, so I guess that's just me. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for participating in that activity. I hope you had fun. If you put in the chat where you like to gather with your community, we would love to hear it. And thank you for participating.
Awesome. Thanks, Myca. Thanks for that great activity. And now we would like to pass the presentation over to Mr. Johnny Delgado for Bakersfield American Indian Health Project. Johnny?
Sorry. Do I have slide control? I'm sorry. Or can you change the next one? Morning, everyone. My name is Delgado. I'm the Grants Program Director for Bakersfield American Indian Health Project. I've been with BIHP for officially 3 years as of about a week ago. When I started with BIHP, we're a small organization, much smaller square footage, which I'll go into presentation. We'll cover. This is our current, the picture of the building is our current facility that we occupy at 501 40th Street. We are in the process of developing an Indigenous Wellness Center. We have some groundwork and programs in place, but we're working on expanding those. Below is a picture of our ribbon cutting event that just took place last month on the 5th or the 6th it took place on. So that's our team right now with our board members in there as well. Next slide, please. All right, originally established in 1997, the Bakersfield American Indian Health Project is an urban Indian health program funded by the Indian Health Services as an outreach and referral center. BIHP incorporated as a formal company in 2013. It is the only Indian healthcare facility in Kern County. BIHP serves a client population representative of over 220 tribes across the nation who currently reside in Kern County. BIHP is a cultural-based health access and advocacy program designed to enhance the health and well-being of the urban American Indian and Alaska Native community. BIHP provides medical case management, basic general medical services, mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, transportation assistance, and contract medical referral services. BIHP also provides youth suicide and substance use prevention programming, outreach and education, and holistic wellness and cultural services to its AIAN community. Our mission is to serve the American Indian, Alaska Native people residing in Kern County by providing services that contribute to the health and vitality of the community in a respectful manner with high regard for cultural values, tribal affiliation, spiritual and personal values of individuals. Our vision. BIHP envisions a vibrant, healthful life for future generations of American Indian, Alaska Natives in Kern County by delivering sustainable, culturally integrated services and fostering continuous community connection and whole wellness. As a note, we are the only Native healthcare center in Kern County. There is one federally recognized tribe. They are referral and outreach only, and they only service their tribal members at this time. There are several non-federally recognized tribes in Kern County, but they do not have any facilities as they don't receive any funding to support them at this time. Next slide, please. All right, COVID-19 before and after. Prior to COVID-19, BIHP employed approximately 12 staff, at least 4,000 square feet. Through multiple rounds of funding, this is due to COVID, BIHP was able to invest in its infrastructure and ultimately purchase its own facility, approximately 15,000 square feet in a 2-year period. On a note on that, we're looking at applying for another grant for the state. If we get approved for that grant, then we are going to double our space because we're going to go a second story on the facility. BIHP increased staffing by double. So right now we're at 22 employees in a 2-year period, and we are actively recruiting for 4 positions. We're going through interviews at this time. BIHP has expanded services to include limited primary care. We did that by hiring a family nurse practitioner. BIHP was able to utilize COVID-19 funding for emergency housing, utility assistance, and food for clients. We have limitations on that funding, and it will be set to expire at some point once it runs out. So we are looking at ways of securing additional fundings to sustain that program. BIHP purchased 2 vehicles to enhance and deliver transportation to its patient population. The funding received through the pandemic allowed BIHP to modernize its technology, facility, and overall increase its capacity. The way I see it is we brought ourselves into the 20th century. We upgraded all of our computers. We upgraded our server, and we moved away from RPMS, which was huge for us. I believe everybody's here has probably used RPMS. It is an archaic system, and we were able to purchase our own EHR system and house that program and run it on our local server here. Although BIHP has experienced tremendous growth and success through its utilization of funding, the AIN people continue to have one of the highest mortality rates of COVID-19. To address this, BIHP is striving to open an Indigenous Wellness Center to connect patients with culturally and linguistically appropriate services and resources. Next slide. Vaccine Equity Project. In June 2022, BIHP was awarded the Vaccine Equity and Health Disparity Funding from the Community Action Partnership of Kern, or CAPK, to promote vaccine awareness, host a weekly COVID-19 clinic, offer vaccine at BIHP events, and incentivize those who vaccinate. BIHP began its VEP campaign in August and doubled its vaccination rate from January through July. BIHP offers the Pfizer, which we have the Pfizer boosters, the bivalent, and the Moderna vaccine, which the Moderna, we have the full dosage as well as the booster for that. We initially at first, we had the J&J and the Moderna. We only got the Pfizer after they lowered the minimum order amount. Before it was a large amount you had to order, it was too much for us to house. Including booster doses to anyone requesting it. So regardless if they're Native American or not, we offer the vaccine to them. BIHP offers no cost vaccinations and incentives using gift cards from Target. Our vaccine clinic is once a week. Anyone who gets a vaccination receives a $25 gift card. At our events, I typically do $50. At all our events, anyone who gets a vaccination, we are offering the flu shot at the same time for anyone who's interested. For the month of December, we're looking at potentially increasing that. BHP offers transportation, no cost to patients to and from our clinic or for medical related needs with contracted providers. Next slide, please. The effects of vaccine equity. Since being awarded vaccine equity funding, BHP's vaccinations have dramatically increased. So far, we've reached about 24 zip codes. Our vaccination rate has experienced a 300% increase. Our flu vaccination rate is about 50%. It's 50% increase over what it was for the from the previous year. So far, we haven't closed out the year yet. BHP will host 1 to 2 events in December to spend down the remaining VEP funding. VEP funding is set to expire end of the year. So for the month of December, for the last 2 events, I am working with the budget revision from with CAPK, and I'm hoping to increase the gift cards to $100. That's more most likely boost our vaccination rates for one, and give families some extra income for the holidays, which I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would greatly benefit from that. Next slide. Challenges. We have several challenges still. Staffing. One of the main issues, of course, with anyone who receives federal funding is lack of competitive pay. Minimum wage in the state of California has rapidly increased over the past couple of years. It's been going up every year, and it's going up again next year by additional 50 cents. Whereas when I first started, I believe minimum wage was like $12 an hour. It's going up to $15.50, so that's a $3.50 increase. So the pay that we once offered isn't as competitive as it was, especially since this work can be very demanding, and you can go to a fast food restaurant and make $18, $19, $20 an hour in some cases. So it does create an issue with staffing, which equals a higher turnover rate. We used to have other issues with staff in terms of training and compliance. However, a lot of that was resolved with Project First Line funding. It did fund for us to train staff and develop our infection prevention and control plans and training for staff. So that's it's resolving most of that for us. Service area is very limited. So Indian Health Services only gives us funding for Bakersfield, Lamont, Arvin. That's a very limited area. Arvin's probably the furthest, and that's from our location is maybe 30 minutes. It's a rather small portion of Kern County as its whole. If we were to increase our funding area, we would not receive any additional funding. So essentially in our conversations with IHS is that you can serve all of Kern County, but we're not going to give you any more money for it. It's rather unfortunate because a lot of Native Americans that need healthcare, culturally appropriate healthcare, are not receiving it. An example will be in the city of Lake Isabella. We are planning on having an event out there, and the VET funding we have is going to fund that event. We're also looking at doing a community assessment to assess the needs of that community. But we're going to get vaccines out there. There's roughly around 2,000 to 3,000 Native Americans that live in that area. And there's no health centers there at all. So it's a long drive for anybody who needs healthcare. And we don't have the funding to reach there, but that's one of our goals to get it there. Funding limitations, that's kind of self-explanatory for anyone who receives federal funding. We're referral and outreach for one. We don't get funded to offer primary care, so we have to be very strategic on how we get there. And then, of course, as I stated, with the Lake Isabella, we don't have funding technically to service that area, so it is very limited, unfortunately. Community engagement. Again, we're limited to our funding and our service area. It's definitely a challenge for us, though, to try to figure out how to get out farther than what we're funded for. And with that, we're always looking for new partnerships and growth. And this ties to the next bullet point, Black from other community organizations. So there's a lot of local community organizations that reach out to us and they want to have conversations. They want us to join their committees and they want us to engage with them and they want to attend our events. But we don't receive any additional funding for them. That includes the county organizations, the local hospitals. We don't receive nothing from them, unfortunately, though, which kind of leaves us on our own to figure things out. The way I feel is that they will attend our events. It makes them look good. It counts their numbers, but they don't invest back into into BIHP to provide and enhance our services we offer, which is a detriment to AIAN because they really need the help. Community awareness. We don't receive any funding for advertising or media. We don't have a media team. We can't fund a media position because our funding doesn't allow for it, which ultimately leads to a limited community penetration rate. A lot of it's word by mouth or somebody having to like a post we have. We do send out our posts and our events to our community partners. They share within the network. How far it goes out from there, I'm really not sure. Something to share though, on a positive note though, with the funding from VEP, as I stated, we're going to have the Lake Isabella event, but the funding also allows us to pay for an air slot for a commercial. So right now, as I'm revising the budget, I am with CapK. I am putting in there for us to actually contract an organization to film a commercial for us, and then for it to play on air on a local news station every 30 minutes or every hour. For the primetime slot of 5 to 11. So I got a quote from the news station. I'm working on getting the other stuff done so we get approved. And if so, for once that's approved sometime this month, it'll air for maybe a month. And hopefully that'll increase awareness, not just for vaccine equity, but to get our information out to the organization so they know that we exist. Next slide. BIHP values number 2 and 6. Number 2 is we planned and build for longevity. So everything we do is within that value of building long-term. We make sure that whatever we build is sustainable and that we don't ever want to start something for the community and start a service and have to take it away. So everything that we do in our movements is for the longevity of enhancing our programs. Number 6, we value culture, language, and identity, equity, and equality for all. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. Thank you everyone for your guys' time.
Thanks, Johnny. At this moment, we would like to pass the presentation to Native Health, so to Susan Levy to give their experiences with the community engagement and cultural approaches. Susan?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Susan Levy, and I work at Native Health in Phoenix. And we, next slide. We are a federally qualified health center and also an urban Indian health program. We provide primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness programs to urban Native Americans as well as other underserved communities. We currently serve well over 20,000 a year, resulting in probably 150,000 visits per year. And at our most recent count, we had served tribal members from over 200 different tribes. Next slide. Oh, wait, this is a picture of our mobile unit that we just got and we've deployed, and it's called a drop-down unit. So next slide. So Native Health has 3 clinical locations in Metro Phoenix. The one on the left is our Central Phoenix location, and we have 2 buildings. The middle one is called NHW, it means Native Health West Community Health Center in Northwest Phoenix. And the one on the right is Native Health Mesa. And we have purchased the entire block at that site, which is 5 buildings under 1 roof line. Next slide. So Native Health has done a lot of different things over the past few years with COVID, vaccines and flu vaccines and health engagement. One of the things that we tried was doing flu shots at a powwow. And it was very, very successful. So this was in the middle of COVID. And what we did is we had a booth and then we just asked if we could provide free flu shots, and we did. And we did a couple hundred that day. So it was very, very successful. Next slide. So we do lots of different things. This is a picture of our screenshot of our Facebook page. So we've got almost 19,000 followers on that. And then on our Instagram, we've got about a little over 5,000. And so we're very active in posting and getting the word out, excuse me, in what we do. So if anybody takes a look at our Facebook page, we actually post pretty much every hour on the hour, Monday through Friday, and often on the weekends to get the word out, whether it's COVID vaccines, flu vaccines, or any community outreach. We do use a product called Hootsuite. I know there's also Sprout Social. If anybody would like has any questions or recommendations, I'd be more than happy to share information with you. And then in terms of Instagram, that's a photo on the right. We were recently at Indigenous Peoples Day in downtown Phoenix. And there were thousands of people there. Excuse me. And this is with President Nez of the Navajo Nation. And he came by our booth and chatted with us. We got the photo. And then in each of the bags that you're seeing them all hold up, these are pre-stuffed with agency information, as well as information on COVID and flu vaccine clinics. Next slide. So we also work with, there's a tribe, it's called Pasquayaki tribe, and it's in the Phoenix metro area, sort of in the area. And we work with them, we've worked with them extensively during COVID, pre-COVID, and then during COVID, and then continuing that relationship. This is a picture of their tribal building. And we actually go out every couple weeks. During COVID, we had started by doing COVID vaccine drive-through clinics at the height of COVID. And we were out there, and I remember having call times here at 3 a.m., getting out there, and in the heat, we start to vaccinate at generally 5 in the morning. And we would do between 500 and 700 people per event. I know there's a lot of vaccine fatigue right now, but we're still getting good numbers, and we still do go out to the community. So on this one, you'll see, this was a couple weeks ago, we did flu and COVID vaccines. Some are drive-through, some are walk-up, and just depending on the weather in Arizona and what the tribe would like. And you'll see everything there, the times that we do it, who is eligible, and then any information, and it's all by walk-in. And then the photo on the right, excuse me, is when we were doing at the beginning of COVID, we were trying to do a lot of work about COVID vaccines, education, to kind of encourage people to get their vaccines. And what we did is a whiteboard here, and we had different staff do videos and or photos on why they should get their vaccine or why they did. And this was it was a very effective campaign. Excuse me, sorry. Next slide. So again, we're still doing COVID vaccines and testing. And so this is again a photo of our mobile unit, and I know we have a good turnout. I know COVID numbers are picking up back again in Arizona. And so we still offer these events. So it's testing, vaccines, and also flu shots as well. And you can see we do this, and again, this is through our mobile unit. Next slide. So this is a couple of the pieces that we had done. We do have an awesome graphic designer, and these are a few of the pieces that he had designed for the flu shots. We've done postcards, we do social media, and then we do flyers in all of those bags that you had seen. And we typically can go through a couple thousand bags a month and get the word out. So this is actually it was one of our interns and one of our MAs in front of our building. And we tried to depict the not using stock photography and trying to depict the community that we serve. And again, this was a drive-through and open to the public, and people could just drive through and get their vaccines. And then the photo on the right is one of the things that Javier had designed. Next slide. So this is a picture of the drive-through flu shot clinic, and we run 2 different lanes. And what we found is we partnered with the city of Phoenix for this particular event. We were able to give out kids' books. We had Phoenix Indian Center. They were able to give out tote bags. We also had tote bags. And then I found a local vendor through Feed Phoenix initiative, which is a COVID kind of initiative to feed people. And we were able to give out free breakfast to people while they were waiting. And at this particular event, I think we did over 300 vaccines and very successful. So they would drive through. You can see there's chairs out there in case we had a child that was squirmy and needed to sit with their parent out of the vehicle to make it a little bit easier. And that we would run the 2 lines concurrently, and then they would pull off to the side and wait in case anybody had a reaction. We did have somebody out there to make sure that everybody was safe before they pulled back out onto a main street. Next slide. So we most recently had our open house and health fair. This is an event we actually had 8,000 people turn out, our biggest one yet. And we partner with a local managed care organization, a Medicaid company, agency. And at the open house and health fair, what we do is we were able to give out flu shots inside our building, and it's free, it's very successful. We did dental screenings, we did flu shots, we did blood sugars, blood pressures, foot screenings, hearing and vision for children, and other tests. And it's all completely free. And when people came in, the Molina Healthcare had funded the health fair, and we were able to give those participants a really nice insulated tote bag with a lot of health fair goodies like water bottles, pill boxes, stress balls. And that's what they got for going for the health fair. That was the incentive, besides information about their health. And then on the outside, you can see those photos. So we have inflatables, food, drink, everything is completely free. And it's something that goes on after there's a parade for Native American Recognition Days in the area. And they walked to our event and they did the open house and the health fair, got their flu shots, COVID information, and then they went off to a powwow across the street as well. Next slide. So this is pictures of the health fair. It was a crazy busy day. You can see the photo on the right is just, we had just so many people here. The left photo is, we've been working with our local county health department, and they have given us, I would say, almost 1 million masks that we've pushed out to the community. We find that it's very popular. Obviously, we can't afford to give them out. The county is pushing them out to us. So we gave out, I don't know, tens of thousands that day. We are also given sanitizer and test kits. And we take these out to every event that we go to, along with information on flu vaccines and COVID vaccines. Now, some groups will allow us to do flu and COVID. Some of the schools will, some of the community outreach events. Every place that we go is different. I find that schools are a little bit easier to do flu shots than COVID vaccines. Those generally need to go to, and these would be the Native American education programs. Oftentimes those school districts will require that I go to the superintendent and or their board. But generally with flu, it's been easier to get those pushed out at the schools. Next slide, please. And this is at one of our events recently, and they were doing free flu shots there. And I don't know if we were doing COVID vaccines at that one as well. And so we do have a medical outreach team, and that's what they do, is go out to events, do COVID testing, HIV, flu, all of the different screenings. They can do blood pressures, blood sugars, pediatric dental screenings, and things like that. And this was about 2 weeks ago. This is another slide of a community outreach event that we do every year. We do give out information, again, on COVID and flu vaccines. This is a very successful one. They have about 2,000 or 3,000 people come through in a few hours. So we also, these are just kind of photos of our display. And then we do have a cotton candy machine. And that was actually one of our partners was doing the cotton candy that day. And then on the right-hand side was doing fluoride varnish. At this event, we also did a few hundred COVID vaccines. It was the wrong season for us. It wasn't our time yet to do flu vaccines. But COVID has been very popular at this event, the COVID vaccines, and encouraging people to get their vaccines and boosters. Next slide. So we most recently, again, we were talking about, I had mentioned our Facebook and our Instagram. So you'll see we were at Phoenix Indian Medical Center a couple weeks ago about National Drug Take Back Day. And we were working on that. We also had our COVID and flu information there, and you'll see we had 327 views on that. And then on the bottom right, we were at, again, Indigenous Peoples Day, and we had 956 views on that video. Next slide. We also tried something, or we've been doing something for a while here. There's the Navajo Times is online and then also in paper. And so every year we do take out ads in the Navajo Times. And these are a couple of the ads that we had, and you can see that it included the COVID-19 vax. At this time, again, flu shots are not recommended in Arizona until October 1. And so we don't advertise that until October. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, same thing. And then we also do COVID vaccines at all of our locations and flu, and they accept walk-ins or appointments for those. And next slide. So one of the things that we're also working on, and I know this is outside of talking about the COVID and flu vaccine engagement that we're doing, is the public health emergency, the unwinding. And one thing that we've been working very, very hard on is to make sure that people don't fall off Medicaid. As in Arizona, it was expanded, and the rest of the country. And I know that if people don't update their information, they will be dropped in Arizona, or could be dropped. And so we actually got a picture of the envelope, and we created this postcard. And we've had a very, very successful campaign in getting people in here to update their information and make sure that they're going to be fine. We also did a video on the left-hand side. That's one of our family health advocates who did a video. We try to run these every couple weeks, and that was, again, on our Instagram. It was 700 views, and it's been very successful. We've also tried a letter writing campaign with this as well, and we hand address the envelope and seal it and then mark confidential on it, and we've had a tremendous response on that, and people are coming in and updating their Medicaid information. So again, sorry, it's a one-off outside of the COVID and flu, but super important. Next slide. So one thing we've tried was hiring an influencer. And this is Alana Yazzie. She is the Fancy Navajo, and she's got quite a following in Arizona and the Southwest. Alana Yazzie is amazing to work with. So she had done some things for us. We had done some COVID vaccines a couple years ago. We had also hired some Native American comedians to do videos on the importance of vaccines, COVID vaccines, and all of those were very successful. And this is Alana Yazzie, most recently about getting out the Native vote. Sorry, I couldn't find my other photos. And we just had her do 2 videos for us to get out the Native vote. And these were really good as well. So we're trying to think outside the box and utilize different things. Next slide. So just a few talking points. I put outreach plays a critical role in facilitating access to our programs and services. It's about people and trusting relationships with the communities we serve. We're very careful what we put out, and make sure everything we're putting out is correct and on time, and all the information is absolutely correct. And we're pretty much a perfectionist to make sure everything is the way it should be. We also believe it's important to meet the community where they are, not where we are. So whether it's going out to the schools, to gatherings, to powwows, whatever it might be. And we've found that outreach really brings an increase in utilization, and it definitely works. Next slide. So we also have done, during COVID, we did a lot of virtual programming. Excuse me. We're back to bringing some, if not most of it, back in person. So we've done like safe sleep and home safety, infant massage classes. We've done beading classes recently. We do childbirth and car seat classes. We gave out car seats at our open house. We got a grant for $5,000 and gave out hundreds of car seats. We do a cooking class called Read It and Eat for young children. We have Cooking Matters for adults. And in each of those classes, before we get started, we talk about Native health, as well as COVID vaccines and the messaging about make sure you get your COVID vaccines, the boosters, and then as well as flu vaccines. Next slide. So we also have a mascot. His name is Wellberto. Get it? Like Wellberto. So Wellberto kind of goes around. He's at the open house. He'll go to different places and do different things. It's quite hot, so we don't use him as much in the summer. But in the winter we do, when he can be out for about 20 minutes at a time. And you'll see that is something that was a vaccine, a COVID vaccine event on the right. And he did a little dance for the kids and got people into the school. And we did, I want to say on those days we averaged, and I was at that event, probably 300 or 400 vaccines that day. So we do pretty well. And then we try to bring food in or feminine hygiene, whatever people might need. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see that was a Wellberto coloring book. We rolled this out during COVID, and we still give them out. But in there was information about staying safe, you know, make sure you social distance and wash your hands, eat well, sleep well, you know, take care of yourself and things like that. And then we give out a little baby Wellberto with our coloring book and some crayons or colored pencils, and we still give those out. Next slide. So we do have a newsletter that goes out. This was a picture of our October one. That is our awesome CEO. His name was Walter Murillo. That's his photo. The newsletter goes out. It's actually, the number is incorrect. It's about 27,000 now. And people can sign up on our website. There's articles. We also have an inclusion of community events, conferences, scholarships, and resources. And then we do put COVID information in there, as well as COVID vaccine dates and times, and flu information. And this works well, different than our social media, but this one is distributed across the country, and then a lot of listservs use this and just blast it out to their listservs. It's quite long. It's about 30 pages a month, and it is designed the way it is so that people have to scroll down and look at all the photos and read everything before they get to the community events at the bottom and resources. So next slide. We also have a radio show and talk show. It's on KRDP, which is in Phoenix at 90.7 on Wednesdays. It's on internet, and then it's also on iTunes, Spotify, and Google. This is just a screenshot on one of the recent guests. We do talk about COVID vaccines, flu in there as well, and we'll do different spots. And then every week you can see different guests are in there. So it's focused on topics that are of interest to the urban Native Americans within the Phoenix metro area, except people do pick it up all over the country and the world. We've had people from all over the world reach out to us, and it's been really successful. I encourage you all to listen to it and see what you think. Next slide. And then these are helpful and obvious tips. Be open and learn what others have tried, and to seek new ideas and new ways of approaching challenges, and borrow great ideas. I think they're obvious, but I think people often overlook them. Next slide. So where do you find new ideas to reach your patients, clients, and the community? Next slide. So here's a few different ideas. Brainstorm and borrow great ideas. I will tell you, on my off time, I'm often combing other UIOs, newsletters, Facebooks, websites, kind of like looking and seeing what they're doing, borrowing some of their great ideas, things we haven't thought of, things that we need to revisit. Also, what's familiar and common to others might be new to you. And so that's where we get a lot of great ideas, is looking at other people's ideas, their social media posts, and their marketing materials, things that I probably didn't think of. And again, search other UIO social media to reach their community. And then you would want to tailor it, obviously, to your UIO. The other thing I do is often reach out and ask for a call with somebody for more information and advice. And I've never had anybody say no to me. You know, I think most people are very honored and flattered to share their ideas and advice with you. And I know I'm always available to anybody that wants to ask anything. I'm always here to support them and share anything that I can to help them be more successful. Next slide. So obviously no one knows your community better than the people you work with and serve. And the people you work with are uniquely qualified to identify what your community needs are and what will resonate with them. And I also invite people to contribute. So I've been here, and I didn't introduce myself at the beginning, and I'm sorry, but my name is Susan, and I've been here for almost, actually my anniversary is this week, 17 years. And so I always want to get some of our younger team members to contribute and give me their ideas, like what am I missing and what would resonate with them. You know, I know we've got people here on our staff that really feel like we should be doing more on TikTok and different things, and we're kind of playing around with different things. Obviously, we're doing our Facebook, our Instagram, TikTok, flyers. We try all different things. And then we've now recently started using Beacon Stack, which is a QR code generator that can track us and give us metrics of what's working. And that's been really good. We're getting weekly reports. And then, so I would say we invite people to contribute. For our newsletter, we send out an email and we ask everybody to contribute an article for their program if they'd like for the newsletter or have ideas. And that's another way to do it. And then we're also having, I also like to ask people in the community, like, what do you think of when we're at a powwow? I was at an event, boy, I'm at events all the time, but usually asking people like, what do you think of our social media? What do you suggest? What would you like to see? And that was one way that we found out people wanted to know more about community events. Native Health is awesome. I love it. I've been here a long time. I think we're the best thing ever. But I also think people wanted to know what's going on in the community, whether it's powwows or gatherings or Native American Heritage Month. And one thing that we found is that when I post those things on our social media, in between our posts of what we're trying to promote, whether it's COVID vaccines, flu vaccines, or one of our events, I put those powwows in and the gatherings and Native American Heritage Month, and found that works really, really well. And our numbers have shot up. We've done really well. And then again, at the bottom, commit to trying a variety of approaches and discover what fits best. Next slide. And there's my contact information. And I'm not sure if anybody has any questions or how Tiffani or Myca want to do that, but I'm always available to you. You can always reach out, and I'm more than happy to answer anything that I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you both Johnny and Susan for these presentations. Amazing work that your organizations are doing. So now we would like to open up the floor for any questions for Johnny and Susan. And I think there was one in the chat. Is there a link for the Spotify channel?
I just shared it, but Susan, if you have a copy, a better copy or a more direct version, feel free to share that as well.
Let me look. That might be, it's, yeah, let me look. And I'll put it in the chat if I can find it.
Hi, this is Denver Indian Health and Family Services. I'm Heather Hoff, the Clinical Applications Coordinator. I'm also the Privacy Officer here. And I was wondering, Susan, would you be willing to get me in contact with your Privacy Officer? I'm super interested in how you guys kind of deal with making sure that your patient information is kept private at these large events, like when you're taking pictures especially. I know that like when we did our COVID events, we'd run around and try and capture everybody, you know, and get a release so we could use their pictures. But I was just wondering, maybe do they have a better idea on how we can do that for these large events?
Yeah, I can put you in touch with our privacy officer. One thing that we've done is on these flu events, you're going to see the backs of our staff's heads.
Yeah.
and like nothing identifying. And I am like a neurotic, crazy person when it comes to that, like absolutely only the backs of heads, nobody identifiable. And I've trashed hundreds of pictures because they get other stuff in there. But yes, we can do that. And we're very careful. And then when we do photos on some of our advertising, which I know I didn't put in there, we've had obviously we have photo releases. And some of them are of staff's children, so I can kind of control the shot and making sure that I'm not, and then I also let them preview it and make sure that they've seen it and they know what it is. But I always obviously have photo releases, very careful with all of that and the messaging. But yeah, I can definitely do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to reach out to that person and just see if they have any any good ideas for me. Because we tried, like, when they would come through to register, you know, to have them fill out a photo release, but you always have somebody slip by, and then you know, they don't tend to run the pictures by me per se. So the person that's, you know, setting everything up, I just want them to all be making sure that they're, you know, taking privacy into consideration. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add to that is they have to, so nothing goes out unless I look at it. And if they do send something out, they definitely are told that they cannot do that. But it all, and that's something that we make quite clear. And then I make sure that we actually have that paper and that I confirm it in writing. So if somebody else took it, I make sure that I've got it and that it's in hand should anybody question it.
Awesome.
So
do you
it's hard.
Yeah, I had a couple of new staff come on that wanted to do live feeds of our, and I'm like, no, we can't do. And they don't, you know, being that they were new to healthcare, they didn't understand that. But yeah, I think it's amazing that you guys work so hard to make sure that you keep your patients' privacy intact.
That's something that we found. We did at the beginning of COVID. Oh my gosh, we did a live Facebook on a beading class. And I learned really quickly that Facebook Live can go south very fast. It should have been a 10 or 15-minute lesson on beading, and it turned into an hour and a half of people like walking through our building, dropping the phones. So after that, that was at the very beginning of COVID, no more live Facebook. We just, except we did one a couple weeks ago at our bike rodeo, I think, but other than that, we just don't do it. So.
That's awesome. Definitely a good learning moment too. But definitely an important piece too for privacy and patients. So thank you for that. Do we have any other questions for either Johnny or Susan today? Or if anybody wants to come off mute and share about a upcoming vaccine clinic or anything like that. No worries. If not, if you think of something else, I will be checking the chat, but we can proceed to the next slide. So we do want to mention to check out our NCUIH site for upcoming events. We do have a bunch of events coming up. So a one-off on boarding school, IPC orientation. We have the electronic case reporting info session, the peer-to-peer solutions center, missing and murdered Indigenous people, virtual dialogue, vaccine equities journey to healthy communities in December, and then also another peer-to-peer solutions center in December as well. And then we did want to provide some funding opportunities that are open. So we do have year 2 of the electronic case reporting UIO subgrant award. So the funding is for up to 3 UIOs for awards of $84,600 each. And our applications are on a rolling basis. And we'll have the drop form link in the chat box. We also have the emergency preparedness and vaccination planning storyteller application. So those applications are live as well for an award up to $30,000. And then just a quick reminder, we invite you to share your feedback on this session through the post-evaluation survey. Your comments are definitely appreciated and help us improve our technical assistance. And then also a gift of our gratitude will be shared for those who complete the survey. And so we will have this up for you if you want to take the remainder of this session to fill out that evaluation. That would be greatly appreciated. And we also want to again thank our speakers today, Johnny Delgado and Susan Levy. Great information. We love the community engagement and cultural approaches. And if there are any other questions, we'll stay on for a bit as well. But thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.